learn as well. I don't know. I can hold it. It's easier. So I'm moving around.
Yeah?
Yeah. Perfect.
Where's my pen?
Are there any online viewers?
I'm not sure if there are viewers, but it's live. It's live, okay.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum to all of you. No. I must say, bank holiday weekend just before half term, and I'm thrilled to see such a good turnout. So it's a good start, alhamdulillah. So just a few points, really. It's not going to be a long speech this time. So the rationale for this series started off back in Ramadan, because every time we have our Ramadan month, we start, the community center is very, very much enlightened, and obviously towards the end, we always tend to say we should carry on the spirit. And it happens every year, obviously not, so we thought this time we follow through it. And the idea behind this series, essentially, as the name suggests, it's a family event, so we would love to see children. It's an event to have to increase our understanding about the Quran, and obviously we try and keep it regularly so that the session, there is some sort of continuity on it. So we're hoping once a month, which is sort of just about the right time to keep up the enthusiasm. We will make sure, at the moment it's set up as the last Sunday of the month. Inshallah, we will stick to that. If there are any changes, I'm assuming the last in July, because that will correspond to the Yom Adha. But we will let you all know way in advance when there are any changes. But we are hoping to keep it the last Sunday of every month. So, inshallah, we look forward to seeing you all throughout these sessions and the next ones as well. And we keep this link. In terms of the speaker, the coordinator, obviously, is well known to the community, even before my times. So asking her to bring back was mutually just re-establishing a lost link. Does a lot of work, as you can see with the text and reference in front of you, and she's a co-founder of Q Fatima, which started in 1991. So without further ado, I would pass the mic back to Umyanti to conduct this session. Thank you very much for attending. Thank you.
Can we start with the salawat, please? Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil faraja. So you should each have one of these, a map. If you're over 12 years old, then you should have one of these. And if you're under 12 years old, you should have one of these. And each of you should have something to write with. So you don't write it, it's not going to work. Okay. So we started Qur'an City in 2013, which is 10 years ago. We're actually challenging the norms, basically because looking at the children that we used to teach at workshop, I found that as far as the Qur'an goes, they knew the stories of the prophets. So if you wanted to illustrate something, they would know the stories of the prophets. You know, with Prophet Nuh, they'd make an ark. With Musa, they'd make the stick, and so on and so forth. But when it came to knowing an overview of the Qur'an, they didn't know anything. So if you asked them, what is Surah number 50? They would go, don't know. They may know the surahs that were recited in Salah, but know them as parrots. So, as I call it in my Khoja language, they would bare and bare and bare. So in Salah, for example, when you recite the surahs, it would be and that was it. And that is where Quran was used, or maybe when somebody died, or in the month of Ramadan. So we were challenging the norms, and we tried to find a way in which we could get these children, especially, and when I say children, I'm actually saying parents, but you can get to them through their children, by being able to understand the Quran. So the first thing we did was build a Lego city. So we took a board. It wasn't like this, by the way. It was just 114 buildings. Now, Qur'an City has 114 buildings. It will never grow. It will never downsize. The 114 buildings represent the 114 Suwer of the Quran. One surah, so many Suwer. I say surahs because at that time, 10 years ago, when I used the word Suwer, because in the Gujarati language it means something else, they wrote to all the Maharaja's office and said, she's swearing. But in the Arabic language, it's one surah and so many Suwer, but I'll call it surahs. So Qur'an City has 114 surahs, will never downsize, will never grow. We made the buildings, the height of the buildings, according to the number of the ayat in the surah. So obviously, the longest building or the tallest building was Surah Al-Baqarah. And the shortest building was Surah Al-Asr, right? So they made in proportion. So in the first instance, it was just like a whole row of buildings. Then we thought we've got to distinguish between Makki and Madani. Now maybe here you will see that we got all the teachers and the students to build, and maybe we can do that one day in one of the sessions as well, where you'll build it with Lego, and it's really interesting. So we thought we've got to make a distinction between Makki and Madani, because it's really important to know which are Makki and which is Madani. So we decided we'd have yellow tops for Madani and green tops for, yellow tops for Makki and green tops for Madani. Why? Because the embroidery on the Kaaba is yellow and the dome of the Prophet is green. Now there's 86 Makki and 28 Madani surahs, if you look there. Makki surahs, which are 86, talk about the why of religion. Madani talk about the how of religion. So the usul is basically Makki, and the furu is in Madani. More emphasis is done on Makki. 86 verses 28. Now, yes, there are some Madani ayat in Makki surah, and there are some Makki ayat in Madani surah. But this is the general categorization that the ulama have done. So if you look at your map, and the children can look at it as well, you will see green and yellow. Can you see green and yellow? There's green squares and yellow squares. Now, if you're not 12, you need to count all the green squares and put the number on top, and count all the yellow squares and put it on top. And hopefully I haven't made a mistake, so there'll be 86 yellow and 28 green. Now, if you look at the screen that you have, it will actually tell you what Makki and Madani are. So you will see Makki surahs, the ayat are brief. You will find there's invitation to, basically it is, see, usul is 3. Tawheed, Nabuwa and Imama, and Qiyamah. Tawheed and Adala go together. So in essence, there are 3. Adala is part of Tawheed. So I will call it recognizing divinity. Then you have divine guidance, and then you have accountability. So most, in fact, almost everything in the Makki surahs will be focused on that, which tells me and you that there is a major differentiation in the way we teach, because we teach more of the how than the why. When here, 86 are why, and then comes the how. So Madani, you will find the verses are long, they're formal, there's a lot of Ya ayyuhal ladhina amanu, while here there's Ya ayyuhan nas, O you who, O people, and O you who believe. So that's Makki and Madani, just some general stuff. Now what you need to know, just general stuff. There's 6,236 ayat in the Quran. It's good to know these numbers, 6236. 114 Suwer or surahs. It was never revealed as Sipara or Juz. It was much later on that it was done into, like, people divided it into exactly 30 parts, so they'll be able to finish a recitation in a month. If you look at your Quran, at the bottom, you will see manzil or manazil. So there's 7 manazil. So if you wanted to finish the recitation in a week, you would follow what's written at the bottom. Then this Quran was sent to Russia, to a place called Bukhar. Now in Bukhar, the ulama there wanted to finish the Quran in Taraweeh. Taraweeh finishes on the 27th of Ramadan. Do you know how many rakats there are? 20. 20 times 27? Oh, come on. Sorry, I gotta wake you up. Bank holiday weekend, 540. So they wanted to divide the Quran into 540 sections. So they did sort of a general subject division, and they called it ruku. You know, there's an ain. We call it a makra in Gujarati or Urdu, right? Now the makra, in inverted brackets, is actually called a ruku, has 3 numbers. One at the top, one in the middle, and one at the bottom. The top is the ruku number in the surah, the bottom in the juz, and the middle tells you how many ayat in that ruku. So these people in Bukhara did a sort of general, if I can say, they went through topics and they put it in a generalized way. So they had 540. But the Indians didn't like the Russians, as usual. So they made some more rukus. And their rukus come to 558. So if you have an Indian Quran, it will have 558 ruku'at. If you have a Russian or an Arabic Quran, it will be 540, okay? Indians also stole the Arabic numbers, so the Arabs stole the English numbers, but that's another story altogether, okay? But this is basically some general bits about the Quran. So we had this Quran, and we thought, okay, now what do we do? Because it also has a chronological order. So the order you and I have is the order the Prophet put of the Quran. 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. While if you look at the chronological order, the Makki surahs and then the Madani. So the first surah that was revealed, obviously you know Surah Al-Fatiha was revealed twice, because it says Sab'a Mathani. But the first one was Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq. Read, which was revealed to the Prophet when he was on the mountain. You all know that, right? So you have 96, and then 68, and then 73. So what we did was, if you look at your books as adults, just pick any surah. Let's just turn your books. Let's pick Surah An-Nur, which is surah number 24, okay? Page 68 and 69. I've just turned the page. So when we teach children, we tell them each surah has a postcode. So the postcode of Surah An-Nur is 110-24-22. Can you see why? 110-24-22, because that's the chronological order. The surah that was revealed before it and the surah that was revealed after it. Have you got it? Look at the bottom. At the bottom there, you've got early Makki, then you've got middle Makki, late Makki, and then you've got Madani. Can you see that at the bottom? Page 68 and 69 is where Surah An-Nur is. You got that? You see where the postcode comes from? So that basically taught the children that there was a chronological order as well. And hopefully, somewhere in the future, if we have life and time allows, we'll be able to do a whole sort of connection, because each one sort of, if I can say, dovetails onto the other. But that's something else too. Then we thought, okay, now what do we do? First thing we thought was we'd build this city. Now you've got to have some rules in entering this city. So if you look at your map, you've got a little gate there. Can you see that? It says Iqra on it. And then near the gate it says, to be able to enter this city, you have to do wudu. You have to be able to recite in Arabic or learn how to recite in Arabic or be in the process of reciting in Arabic, because that's the language of the Quran, right? You have to seek protection from shaitan. So every time you recite, every time you go to Quran, you say, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Then you would start in the name of Allah, which is Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Then you would say, La ilaha illallah. Now this is a schedule of what you need to do, because that takes you into a zone of saying He is the one. And then the dua of the Prophet. And the dua of the Prophet is Walzam Kalbi, which is make my heart hifdha kitabika kama allamtani. So basically, I want to fall in love with your book. It literally says, teach me or make me internalize the Quran into my heart as you have taught me. Okay? And that's every time you start looking at this book. Okay? Then we have a road network. So we divided this Quran into different sections, and I'll go over them in a minute. But each one needed to be connected by a road network. And we call that road network M14, which is the 14 Masumin. So you could not be able to understand any of the chapters or any of the surahs unless you referred to the hadith of the Masumin, okay? Right, now if you look at your city, and I'm going to go into Qamar in a minute. In fact, let me go back to the city. There we go. So if you look at that city, you have a city center. And the city center is the chapters that are directly referring to the Qur'an. Look at your maps and you will see it right in the middle. I think you got these, that one, that's the city center. So we first created a city center, and you can see the city center is a queue. Oh, by the way, when we were doing this, we looked at the morphology of Medina, which means how did the Prophet build Medina? So we went through the whole structure of how he built Medina, what he did, where he put the industries, where he put the parks, so on and so forth, okay? So we started with the city center, and the city center has 4 surahs, and we'll go on to these as we go to the different sections. And around the city center, we've got 19 suburbs all around there, and I'll tell you each one as we go along, because it's just an introduction. But we're going to start with Surah Al-Qamar, which is right at the top, and I'll try and get to Surah Al-Qamar. So right at the top of Qur'an City, you have Surah Al-Qamar. The reason why we put Qamar there was A, the moon, and you and I, as Muslims, are identified by the moon. The moment somebody sees a moon, they say Muslims, right? So we put it up there. But also, 4 times in this surah, Allah says, does anybody know what he says? Think. Go to your book. Go to your Quran. And I'm going to make you think a little bit here, because otherwise you're all going to go to sleep. Surah number 54. Al-Qamar. Can you see that? It's page 128. وَلَقَدْ يَسَّرْنَا الْقُرْآنَ لِلذِّكْرِ فَهَلْ مِن مُدَّكِرٍ. So basically, if I translate this in very simple language, he says, is there anyone who wishes to understand the Quran? Or let me put it a bit, paraphrase it. We have made the Quran extremely easy for anyone who puts a tiny bit of effort. وَلَقَدْ يَسَّرْنَا الْقُرْآنَ لِلذِّكْرِ فَهَلْ مِن مُدَّكِرٍ. So in the Quran, or rather in Arabic, you have mutadhakkir. Mutadhakkir is somebody who puts in a lot of effort in remembering. Then you have mudakkir, somebody who puts in a little bit less effort. But the word used here is somebody who puts a tiny bit of effort. He says, just put a tiny bit of effort and you'll be able to internalize it. And I'm going to stress again that maybe all of you remember this ayah, because when you went into inverted brackets, big Quran, it did Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Alif Lam Mim. ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابِ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. This book, no doubt, is a guidance for those who believe. It didn't say it is just a book of recitation. So it's supposed to take me somewhere. And when we go to Surah Al-Fatiha, we'll see it. So the reason why I put Qamar there was because وَلَقَدْ يَسَّرْنَا الْقُرْآنَ لِلذِّكْرِ فَهَلْ مِن مُدَّكِرٍ. Tiny bit of effort. He doesn't even say a lot. He just emphasizes just a little bit of effort. Then the city center, 4 surahs. 25, 96, 97, 98. Now, if you go onto the website, I don't have time today, but I would have loved to do mnemonics with you. If you only sat for an hour, maybe one day in the future, in an hour, I guarantee you, you would know the names of the surah in their order within an hour by learning mnemonics. Mnemonics are really, really easy, okay? So right now, 25, 96, 97, 98. Furqan tells you who you would become if you recited the Quran and who you would become if you didn't. So there's who. Then you have 96, which is alaq, which is how the Quran was revealed, which you all know. Surah Al-Qadr is when the Quran was revealed. And finally, you have Surah Al-Bayyinah, which tells you what the Quran is. In essence, it tells you it's a crystal clear message, but the Quran and the Prophet go hand in hand. Okay? So we put a city center. Around this city center, So before around the center, right at the bottom, you've got Viewpoint Terrace. Can you see it? This is the order that the admin have put, okay, not me. So I'm doing what they've said. So Viewpoint Terrace is an aspiration of every Muslim. So each of you, each of us, all of us want to be a mu'min. We want to believe, we want to be put in that group, so it's al-mu'minun. By the way, these two surahs, we didn't know what to do with them, so we put them in Viewpoint Terrace. So you want to be a mu'min, but Zumar is companions of Jannah and Jahannam. But my children tell me that you want to be a mu'min who wants to zoom to Jannah. Can you remember that? So Viewpoint Terrace, Zumar is companions of Jannah and Jahannam, but you want to go to Jannah. Inshallah, when we do Zumar, you will see how beautiful that is. So now we started with Divine Center. In other words, now we started with Usul, Tawheed, which was recognition of Allah. Then we went obviously to Divine Guidance, and then we went to Qiyamah. So if you look underneath City Center, you've got Divine Center. And the two surahs we've put here, 55 and 67. 55 is Rahman, 67 is Mulk. The only Asma'ul Husna that is used as the title of a chapter is Rahman. What we're developing this year, I've got it somewhere here, is the same thing, but Asma'ul Husna. Maybe some years later we'll do it if life gets there. Okay, so that's Divine Center. Either side of Divine Center, you've got two things. You've got Hamidat Center, Crescent, and you've got Musabbihat Crescent. Hamidat Crescent is all those chapters that begin with Hamd. You know when you say, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Hamd is not just praise. It's a combination of praise and gratitude. Okay? So all the chapters, and this is divisions that have been done by the ulama, by the way. They've called these all Hamidat. We've just put it in a city and called it Hamidat Crescent. So there's 1, 6, 18, 34, and 35. Not going to go in each one. Don't get scared. But hopefully you will read them in the book and go through them. My favorite ones are these, Musabbihat. 7 chapters, 7 days in a week. They all start with Subhan. Subhan comes from the Arabic word Sabaha, which means to swim or to float. You can only float if you have a perfect balance. So that's what Subhan is about. The Prophet would not sleep until he read one of these every night. So what I tell the children is, at least memorize one ayah, the first ayah of each of these. Obviously on Thursday night you will do Jumu'ah. So you could start Thursday, Friday, Saturday, so Isra on Sunday, Hadid on Monday, Hashr on Tuesday, Saf on Wednesday, Jumu'ah on Thursday, Taghabun on Friday, and Saturday is A'la. They're phenomenal surahs. The Prophet used to say they have Isma A'azam in them, and if you want to reach heights, these are the surahs to recite, as in every night before you go to sleep. So say you find it difficult to recite all of them, at least one ayah, and slowly it'll build up as you go along. Now we come to divine guidance, which is what you call Nubuwah and Imama. And if you look at that, if you look at your maps here, which we've just cut out a bit from there, we've called it Muhammad Square. And in Muhammad Square, you've got various things. I'm going to start with Ahlul Bayt Circle. Can you see that? You got Suratul Dahar and Suratul Kawthar. Are you good with that? Because Dahar talks about the Ahlul Bayt. You know the story, when they fasted for 3 days, and then the poor man came. You know the story? Yes? No? Maybe? Oh, thank God for that. Okay. So Dahar is a surah of the Ahlul Bayt. And Kawthar is basically about Fatima. So Kawthar is Sayyidah Fatima alayhi salam. So we put both these in Ahlul Bayt circle. Then we had 47, 48, and 49, which is literally talking about the Prophet. It's respect to the Prophet. I won't go into each one right now. Then we have Nida Street. Again, this is what the ulama have called these surahs. Nida means to call out. So each one will say, Ya ayyuhan nabi, except 73 and 74, which say, Ya ayyuhal muzammil and Ya ayyuhal muddathir. Directly calls the Prophet. Now there are 2 surahs in Muhammad Square that we put on the street, halfway. And I'll tell you when we get to Huruf al-Muqatti'at. There were Taha and Yasin, because those 2 start with Huruf al-Muqatti'at, which is the cut letters. And there's 29 surahs, which we'll go into in a minute. Okay. And then obviously Qiyamah close. So you can see how it builds up. You've got Tawheed, you've got Nubuwah, and then right at the top you've got Qiyamah. And although there are many other surah of the Quran that talk about Qiyamah, these are the ones we've put in Qiyamah close, which will give you a vivid picture of the Day of Judgment. Okay? I'm not going to go into each one right now. Okay, now you have 4 corners. Start with Qul corner. There are 5 Quls, although we only know 4. All these start with Qul. The other one that we don't normally know is Jinn. Surah Al-Jinn starts with Qul, say. Qul actually means say, and it's a qa, not a ka. Okay? If you say a ka, it means eat. If you say a qa, it means say. So it's Qul, even when you're praying. All right, so maybe one day. Then we have women's corner. So all the surah that tend to talk about women or had titles with women in them, we put them here. There was Maryam, there was Nisa, Mujadila, and Mumtahana. And you can see Maryam we sort of put at the edge because it goes into Huruf al-Muqatti'at because it starts with Kaf, Ha, Ya, Ain, Sad. So we put it there, okay? Mujadila, if ever in life you have a problem that's not moving away, it could be a person, people are not problems normally, but if they are, read Mujadila 3 times, has a phenomenal effect. In fact, I would read Mujadila every day if I were you. It just, prevention is better than cure. Just one more thing. Mujadila actually talks about a woman who changed, Khawla her name was, who changed a whole law, literally by talking to the Prophet. And Allah changes a law because of her. But when we come to the surah, we'll get to it. Then we have Kaaba corner. Hajj is coming up. This is Dhul Qa'dah. So you've got a Hajj coming up. And these are the 3 surah we're doing at workshop for this term, which is Surah Al-Hajj, Surah Al-Fil, and Surah Al-Quraysh. If you go on the website, you've got a full explanation of each of them. Okay. Then we have exiled corner. The children call it naughty corner. You see naughty corner right at the top? So naughty corner has all the surah that are not very good. So you can see in that corner, the yellow ones are he frowned, then you've got mutaffifin, you've got takathur, you've got humaza, you've got ma'un and lahab. But when they got to Medina, they couldn't express their badness straight out. So you can see now they're to hide it. So you've got munafiqun there. Can you see? So you couldn't outright be bad because you've declared yourself as Muslims. So now you've got to be covert about it. Now, if you're in exiled corner, you need to come out because you're in prison, right? To come out, you've got to go to Tawbah turn. Now, these 2 surahs are linked, Surah Al-Anfal and Surah Tawbah. And there is always an ability to make a U-turn. So to come out, it's like Monopoly. If you want to come out, you need get out of jail, you need certain things. So here you need Tawbah, okay? That's what we did. Then we thought every city needs an energy source. It needs power. So put Surah An-Nur in energy zone because Nur is all about energy, positive energy, okay? And then you need somewhere to chill, somewhere to sit down and chill. So when the Prophet was really, really upset, he would go for a walk. And in Medina, he built gardens where you could actually walk and sit down somewhere. But the 2 surah that took him through the most difficult times of his life, and which he would say later on, that if ever I was stuck, these are the 2 surah I would recite, is the Ha and Inshira. By the way, when you talk about 2, it's Suratayn. That is Surah, Suratayn, and Suwer, okay? So but I'll just use surahs to make it easy. And these gave him comfort. So anytime you find life is getting a bit difficult, these are the 2 surah too, or the 2 Suratayn to recite. And there we go. We had a healthy zone. They're all about healthy eating these days. We actually moved it out. It was somewhere else, but we created another zone because it's got milk, fruits, and honey, and it talks about the bee. By the way, do you know how you remember 16 is Nahal? Okay, so in the English language, you say sweet 16, right? What is sweet? Honey. And what is this? Nahal. So at least you know what surah number 16 is, right? Okay, great. Then we have Huruf al-Muqatti'at. 29 surah of the Qur'an begin with letters that just the Arabs had never heard. The Arabs were masters at literature, but they'd never heard of something like this before. And suddenly Allah brings these letters in. They're all abbreviated, right? So you have Tasin, Tasin Mim, Ha Mim. You have the singles, which are Nun, Qaf, and Sad. Oh, by the way, Surah Al-Qaf. What rhymes with Qaf? Half. And what's half in percentage? 50. So what is surah number 50? Qaf. Okay? This is methodologies to remember. But these were 29 surah. And it's easy to remember because qata'a means to cut. But in English, cut means to cut as well. So if you remember huruf al-muqatti'at, the cut letters, there's 29 of them, and you can now see why Maryam, Taha, and Yasin were placed over there, okay? Now we had some surahs that were left over, these two. Anbiya and Nuh, we didn't know where to put them. So if you look at Ra'at place in huruf al-muqatti'at, in Ra'at place you've got Yunus, Hud, Yusuf, Ibrahim. Can you see them? And we thought Nuh would feel a little bit lonely if we put him separately. So we put him near there, near Ra'at place. So we called it Anbiya Annex, and we put them there. But also you will find, have a look and see what Surah Al-Anbiya begins with. Any idea? Anyway, I'll leave that up to you. These are some things that you need to look and have a look at. Then we've got Qasam place. I'm going to explain a little bit about Qasam place, okay? So these are surahs where Allah swears. Now, if you have a book here, I also make notes in the book, which sort of helps a little bit. I haven't added a lot of stuff here. Now, the Arabs, if they wanted your attention, pre-Qur'an, pre-Islam, used to say, so if they wanted a headline, they would say, I swear by the flower. And people knew that that person wanted to tell you something interesting. Using that same concept, Allah changes it. So basically, the object becomes the proof of the subject. The object which is being sworn about in the Qur'an, Allah doesn't need to swear to prove its truthfulness. It becomes the, in actual word, if I can say, it becomes a proof of the subject. Let me give you an example. Surah Al-Waqiyah. Have you got your Qur'ans here? Have you got a book here? Have you got a phone with your Qur'an? Go to Surah Al-Waqiyah, ayah number 75. You've got lots of Qur'ans at the back. Alhamdulillah. Okay. So ayah number 75 says, فَلَا أُقْسِمُ بِنَوَاقِعٍ النُّجُومِ. I swear by the placement of the stars. This is what Allah says. فَلَا أُقْسِمُ بِنَوَاقِعٍ النُّجُومِ. I swear by the placement of the stars. وَإِنَّهُ لَقَسَمٌ لَوْ تَعْلَمُونَ عَظِيمٌ. If only you knew this is a huge qasam. Qasam? A huge thing I'm swearing by. Now what does he say? Ayah number 77. He says, إِنَّهُ لَقُرْآنٌ كَرِيمٌ. Indeed, this is an honorable Qur'an. The stars were used by the Arabs in the desert. The placement of the stars showed you direction. It was navigational purposes. So here, the object of the swearing, of the qasam, is a star. The placement of the stars. Placement of the stars means navigation. The subject is the Qur'an. So he's telling you and me that just as the stars are guiding you physically in the desert, the Qur'an will guide you in your life. Can you see that? Every single bit in that place, in Qasam place, every oath in there, we'll talk about it. Wal asr innal insana lafi khusr. Inshallah, we'll do all of these when we get to those surah. Then we have Victory Circle, which is, if you look at City Centre at the top, you've got Victory Circle. And, I mean, this is a no-brainer. Surah An-Nasr is victory. إِذَا جَاءَ نَصْرُ اللَّهِ وَالْفَتْحُ وَرَأَيْتَ النَّاسَ يَدْخُلُونَ فِي دِينِ اللَّهِ أَفْوَاجًا. You all know that. And then we put Kamil close. We had to. Because at the end of the day, that is where the last revelation is. Al-yawma akmaltu lakum dinakum. This day I perfected your religion for you. So we called it Kamil close, and we said that was the last revelation. Every single building that you've got here, if you've got a book, you will see it. There's a color directory, and that is literally the color directory. But when we go to the buildings, you'll understand what I'm doing there. But today I'd like to take you through a building, and I'll take you through Surah Al-Fatiha. Before I go there, what I suggest you do is you turn your map round, and we've got a blank one there. Can you see that? So that's your homework, hopefully before next week, next month. Yeah, sorry, not next week. You will try and fill in those blanks. Do you think you could do that? Yeah? So you just go back and forth like that. We've got lots more here if you want to take them, okay? But just see if you can manage to do that. Go on the website, learn the mnemonics, and see if you know all 114. Are you good? No. You'll try. But you know what? If nothing else, at least try. Maybe just Qur'an City Centre. Maybe those that you can manage. Musabbihat, Hamidat, whatever you can do. Okay? So that's basically your homework. But I'd like to go through Surah Al-Fatiha. And this is basically how we teach. So we went through a modular process at Q Fatima. The first thing is Q Read. Q Read teaches you how to recite Qur'an. Arabic, nothing replaces the beauty of the Qur'an. And you can only experience Qur'an in Salah. You have to move away from the Khoja methodology or mentality, whereby you only recite the short surahs in Salah. If you ask, I'm a Khoja. I love being a Khoja. Okay, so I'm not taking that away from it. I mean, I am really proud of being a Khoja. But as Khojas, we recite Surah Al-Fatiha, and then Surah Al-Ikhlas, and Surah Al-Qadr, and maybe Surah Al-Asr, maybe Falak al-Nas, I mean maybe, you know, the days that were a bit, Jumu'ah maybe on Eid, Shams and A'la, but that's it. And if you know, say, I'm reciting Surah Kaf today, they'll tell you, tu sunicho. It's not like that. And that brings me to another thing. 5 prayers, 5 times a day. It was convenient to pay 5 prayers 3 times a day. So good to know the times, good to recite different surahs. Anyway, different story altogether. Right now, this is how we teach. So the module thing was first Q Read. Second, it was having an overview of the Quran like this. Just keep it in front of you, okay? And then to look at it and to be able to know all the surah. So if I were to tell you, where is surah number 2? You'd immediately know it's in Mimat place. If I asked you, where's surah number 63? You'd tell me, Munafiqun. It's definitely in exiled corner. If I asked you, where's 62? What would you tell me? Jumu'ah, so you will say Musabbihat. If I asked you, I don't know, 76 and 108, come on, you got to know those. 76, Surah Al-Insan and Surah Al-Kawthar. Ahlul Bayt circle. So like that, just test yourself and keep on learning them as you go along. But do it on not like most of the children do. Their bags from madrasa, I don't know about your children, but the ones I see, the bags from madrasa go in the boot of their mom's cars and come out the following Saturday or Sunday, okay? This should be done on a daily basis for you to be able to do it. So I said Q Read, learning how to recite, having an overview of the Quran, looking at this, and then looking at each surah, and first of all, knowing its axis. Axis is its focus. So all the ulama, all the scholars of the Quran, some have called it gharad, some have called it all different things. But in essence, it's the focus of every surah. And then the key concepts of that surah. We're not out here to make ulama. That you go to Hawza for. It's just a matter of knowing this book. And then we'll talk about how you will journal it. But we'll go into that. So let's look at Surah Al-Fatiha, which you recite every day. And all of you know this surah by heart, so I don't have to worry about you looking at the Quran, okay? So if you look at the building at Surah Al-Fatiha, open your books, which you have here, and turn to, it's on page 22, okay? So you got Surah Al-Fatiha there. So the first thing you look at is right at the top, we've put the focus of that surah. Surah Al-Fatiha is in essence the summary of the Quran. So imagine you went shopping for a God. You didn't have a God. You just started go for a clean slate. Okay, let me try and bring you into that mode. Have you watched that movie, what's it called? You should know it, about the fish. What's it called? Nemo, yeah, Nemo. Yeah. So now, Nemo is a fish, right? Isn't he? And his parents get attacked in a barracuda attack. Is that right? Am I right? Okay. So I remember when my daughter was little. She's 22 now. 22 now. Okay. She's 22 now, the youngest one. And I remember that's when Nemo first came out, when she was 5 or 6. Now, when we were watching Finding Nemo, is that what it's called? Finding Nemo. When we were watching Finding Nemo, if you gave her fish fingers, she wouldn't eat it. Because there was a paradigm shift in her head that Nemo was real and eating fish fingers was like being a barracuda and that you were eating fish. But as soon as that finished, she would have fish fingers. It's funny, isn't it? That's called a paradigm shift. It's how you change, right? So right now, change and imagine you have no religion at all. And you were looking through everywhere to find a God. So you went shopping for a God. And you went through all the books. And in this book, you found that this God of Islam had 4 qualities. He was Rabb. Rabb is someone who takes you with your hand step by step to your full potential. That is why you say, Rabbi rahamhuma kama rabbayani saghira. My Rabb, have mercy on my parents just as they guided me to my full potential when I was little. So Rabb is someone who guides you to your full potential. Whatever you want to be, he takes you there. Then he was Rahman and Rahim. Rahman is someone who is extremely, incredibly merciful to everyone. I would give the example of a dentist. If I have a toothache, the only thing I want to know is for that dentist to do something to that tooth. Take it out, do whatever you want to do, but get rid of my pain. That is Rahman, immediate, now. But if I want my teeth to be okay, then I see a hygienist, and I actually subscribe to the dental institution or whatever it is, the dental practice. So the hygienist is Rahim. Rahim is exclusive mercy for those who subscribe to Allah, so those who connect to Allah. So you have Rahman to all. You can't say, Ya Allah, don't be Rahman to whatever because he's not a Muslim. It doesn't work like that. So he's Rahman to all, and then he's Rahim, an extra mercy to those who are connected to him. Now, also, Rahman is immediate, Rahim is constant. There are so many different types about it, but in essence, Rahman and Rahim cover all aspects of incredibly kind. Okay? So you found this God who was Rabb, he was Rahman, and he was Rahim, and thank God for that. He's the one you were accountable to. Maliki or Maliki Yawmid Din. So if I had accountability, I'd go to him, Prophet Musa. He says, Ya Allah, I just want to see how kind you are. So he says, Musa, look at that mom. And mom was looking after a baby who was screaming. And if you haven't had screaming babies, then there's something wrong with you, okay? So screaming baby, mom picks up the child, feeds the child, changes the child, rocks the child, but the child still screams. So mom puts the baby in a cradle and walks away for a minute, for a breather, and goes back to the baby. And Allah says, Musa, did you see that mother? Did you see her Rahmaniyat? I am 70 times more Rahman than that mom. So if you found that it is this God whom you are accountable to, not anybody else, Maliki Yawmiddin, I mean, I will subscribe to him. Who is Allah? So I'd say that's the first section. Who is Allah? Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen Rabb. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. So immediately, that's the first section. We've divided all the buildings into sections. The first section is who is Allah. And immediately, when I recognize these qualities, I say, Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'in. We wish to subscribe to you. We want to enter your institution. We want to be your abd and rabb, sort of, it's like a mirror, like coal and fuel. They say when an abd is like coal and rabb is like if you call the flames, when the coal comes near the flames, it takes the qualities of the rabb, right? So you say, Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'in. But being alone is really hard. So imagine for a minute, close your eyes and imagine your house in Jannah. Go on. It's got all your PlayStations, got everything you ever wanted. Can you imagine it? Okay, but you're all alone in there. What are you going to do? No Wessex, no Fareham, nobody. Oh God, yeah, nobody. Absolutely nobody. Just you and your beautiful home. How many days will you survive? 1, 2, 5, 10, 15, 20, maybe a month. And then? And no phone, because you can't communicate with anybody else. Oh, that's hard, isn't it? No Facebook, no Instagram, no Snapchat, nobody. Just you and everything you wanted. That is why you don't say Iyaka a'budu wa iyaka asta'in. You say Iyaka na'budu, we wish to, so whoever you want in your circle, we wish to be those connected to you. Wa iyaka nasta'in. Now there's lots of words for help in Arabic, but the word used here is isti'ana. Isti'ana is a word that is used for something you are already doing but you need help in. You can't say nasr. You can't say I want help for something you're not doing anything about. Isti'ana, nasta'in is, Ya Allah, I'm already trying. I'm trying, I need your help, or we need your help. So he says, what do you need help in? So you say, Ihdinas siratal mustaqim. Guide us. Sirat, by the way, there are 3 words for road in Arabic. There's sirat, there is tariq, and there's also sabil. You probably have heard of them. Sirat has no plural. Sirat is straight. Sirat is smooth. Sirat has no detours. Sirat is long, and sirat is wide. So guide us on the path, and mustaqim, sirat already means straight. It's horrible when you read the translation because it says guide us on the straight path. No. Guide us on the path that is vertical. Mustaqim. What do you say when you pray salah? Bihawlillahi wa quwwati aqumu wa aq'ud. Aqumu. Istiqama. Basically the path that is going up. From down to up. Okay? So guide me on the path which will take me closest to divinity. Because the Prophet said, Takhalluku bi akhlaqillah. Adopt in yourself the akhlaq of Allah, which means the Asma al-Husna. I want to reach my full potential. Whenever you say, Ihdina siratal mustaqim, guide us to our full potential. So he gives you the answer in the 3rd section. He says, very, very simple. Okay, I'm going to go back. In your books, you have all this. So we started with that. We went there. And we said, Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'in. Ihdina siratal mustaqim. Now he gives you an answer. He said, very simple. Siratal ladina an'amta alayhim. Follow the path of those whom I have blessed. Past tense. That's what he says. That's his answer. Because you and I asked, Ihdina siratal mustaqim. So he gave an answer. The path of those whom I have already blessed. غير المغضوب, not those on whom there is anger. He doesn't say my anger, his anger, no. He says on whom there is general anger. ولا الضالين, and neither those who are lost. So your first question, or my first question as a human being who reads the Quran would be, Ya Allah, who have you blessed? Isn't that the logical answer? If you told someone, show me the way to London, and they say, follow she who always gets there on time. Obviously the question is, who is she? Or who is he? If I don't ask, then that means I'm not even thinking. So he says, Sirat al-ladhina an'amta alayhim. Follow the path of those whom I have blessed. So the simple question is, Ya Allah, who have you blessed? He says, simple. Read the rest of my Quran and you'll find out. Good? Yeah, it's quite simple. It's not that difficult, okay? So, let me go back a bit. That denotes desperation. How many times do you and I say this? 10 times a day. Ihdina siratal mustaqim. Guide us to our full potential, okay? And he gives the answer really well. So, what I'm going to do is just take you very briefly through and then we'll go to journaling, through the surah that everybody says is really difficult. Surah Al-Baqarah. Longest surah of the Quran. If you ask somebody Surah Al-Baqarah, they say, Ma tudu keche, which means I have a headache just thinking about it. Okay? All right, so I'm going to take you through this surah because we need to learn all of them like this. So this surah, basically, if you look at it, right at the top, in your book, it's on page 24. It's the longest surah, 1/12 of the Quran. But in essence, if you look at the surah, it is trying to understand Iman through history. If you want to understand anything, you've got to look through history. And that's how it takes. We as Shias are very, very particular about this. You learn from lessons of the past, and then you move forward in life. So Surah Al-Baqarah has 9 sections. You good with that? 9 sections. Easy? Surah Al-Baqarah, longest surah. It's got 9 sections. I'm going to do it in about a minute, okay? Section 1. It's a university. Imagine Surah Al-Baqarah as a university. And imagine you entered that university, but they told you, you choose the class. We're not going to put you in a class. You choose the class you want to go into, because nobody can judge you. You either believe, or you don't believe, or you're on the fence. It's entirely up to you. You don't have to tell anyone. There are 3 classes here. Either you cover up the truth, which is what kafara means, or kafirun means. You know the truth, but you cover it up. Or you believe, or you're on the fence. Good with that? First section. First university, first class. Second section, he says, this university belongs to me. Talks about Allah. That's the second section. The third section, he says, that's my first student who entered my university. You good? I'm going to go over it. Fourth section. These are my naughty students. They take up a lot of Surah Al-Baqarah. All right, let's not call them naughty. They were my challenging students. Do you know why it's called Baqarah? They were asked to sacrifice a cow. What color, how old, where from, what which, what when, all the rest of it. Just didn't go and do it straight away. Star student, Prophet Ibrahim. Next section, that was my star student. Now he says, now you know the history of my university, of how faith came about. I'm going to change your Qibla and inaugurate you into a new class, because you can't go in a historical class. That's where change of Qibla comes, right? Right, section 7. That whole section is about what you do. Whether you fast or you can see that. All those different things in there. What you eat. And the most beautiful ayah in there is Ayatul Bir. Ayatul Bir is beautiful. Have a look at it, 177. Next section, he says, all right, so now you know what to do. We need to look at some long-term investments. You can't just sit here and just have a BA. You've got to do a master's. That's master's, okay? And there you will have Ayatul Kursi, and it'll tell you all the different things. And finally, the last section is like a CPD. It's a reiteration of your core beliefs. Amana Rasulu bima unzila ilayhi mir rabbihi wal mu'minun. You all know that, don't you? Kullun amana billahi wa malaikatihi wa kutubihi wa rasuli. All right. So let's go over this again without you looking at it. I'm just going to go into selected ayat. Surah Al-Baqarah. Surah number 2. Focus, faith through history. How many sections? Don't look at your books. How many sections? 9. Okay, first section, put yourself in a class. Believer, non-believer, or sitting on the fence. Second section, who does the university belong to? Allah. Third section, who was the first student? Adam. Next section, challenging students. Next section, star student. And you can always remember 5. Ibrahim is a star student. Okay, next section, 6. Come on. Inauguration of a new class, because change of Qibla. 7, what you learn in that class. All the rules that you learn about. 8, long-term investments. 9, CPD. You know Baqarah now, literally. You know Baqarah in a matter of minutes. It's literally, that is basically the different sections of Baqarah. You can then go into each ayah, and we'll go into journaling, and I'll show you what to do. Are you comfortable with that? Okay, so each surah we've done like that. And I've taken you to the hardest one, which is Baqarah. So you can imagine all the others are like, they're really easy. Okay. وَلَقَدْ يَسَّرْنَا الْقُرْآنَ لِلذِّكْرِ فَهَلْ مِن مُدَّكِرٍ. Surah Al-Qamar, okay? We've picked some selected ayat here. So there's the dua of Prophet Ibrahim, direction, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. You all know that? 2156, we say it all the time. Ayatul Bir, what it means to be a good person, so on and so forth. You can read all those as you go along, and you can put them in. We've also done children's books. You've got one there, but these were Kaswa visits. So we took a little camel called Kaswa. We gave all the children a soft camel, and we've done all these books that go into it. Again, they're all on the website, and you can access them from there. But this is what we're working on this year, which is A99. This is the latest version. And hopefully we will look at it at some point in the future, or you will look at it on the website and see as it grows, okay? So before I go on to anything else, and this is literally the end, have you got any questions? Anything at all? Nuri ila dhulumat. Maybe we will do a session only on Ayatul Kursi, because then you can look at all the, I'd hate to answer it in one. Oh. It is predetermined. If you look at your book, we've actually put Ayatul Kursi. Look at page 287. And if you go on the website, I think they've superimposed, the rainbow is supposed to go on top, but it's actually a rainbow that takes you through Ayatul Kursi. Okay, maybe you've got a different, have you got 287? So I'll take you through the rainbow at some stage, okay? But we've got a whole session on the website for it. I don't answer in 1 second. So what I want to talk to you about now is journaling. I'm going to put this down, and hopefully you can hear me. So hopefully your Quran looks like this. You see that? That's what we want. That's what you would have. So each of the surahs, let's go into them. You would have the building. Okay? You can print it, you can cut it out, you can do whatever you want. And then everything is highlighted. Can you see that? Yes? It's annotated. So when you go through and read your Quran, everything we've talked about today will come through. So for example, let's look at Surah Al-Fatiha. There. That's my Surah Al-Fatiha. Okay. So if you had something like this, and you put all the notes in that you hear, and you will have majalis here, you will have various sessions here. Every time you have a majalis, every single zakir or zakira starts with an ayah of Quran. So if you highlight that Quran when you go back home, you highlight it in your Quran, and you take a post-it note, and you take the key concepts of what she or he talked about. You can see I have tiny little bits everywhere. What she or he talked about. You've built up a library from different speakers and different scholars, and it's phenomenal. And it's amazing what it can work to. And it doesn't go to waste. This is a normal Quran, which is Shakir. Just any Quran. I actually prefer one without a translation, because the translations are really a bit different. But this is Shakir in essence. We gave it to each of our students at workshop. It helps in the first instance to look at the English translation. But I'm sure we can find some to bring for you if you're going to do some journaling as well. Ali Kurikaria is another one. Yeah, they're all different ones. Yeah. My only problem with something of that sort was, as I get getting older, the words are too small. So I struggle. So I need something with large writing. So near my musalla, I have something that's got massive writing, which makes more sense. Okay. But I'll bring them all for you to have a look. Are you good? Oh, you do? Okay, so the translation is really good with those, so that helps. Can we end with the Surah Al-Fatiha, please? Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'een. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. صدق الله العظيم. جزاكم الله خير. Thank you for listening.